What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Mind of Marsal podcast. This is episode number 152, and I'm your host, Armando Marsal. You can check out all of my work over at fantasyguru.com, and you can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Armando_Marsal, as well as on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Mind of Marsal. If you're enjoying the podcast, enjoying the show, enjoying the content, please make sure you're subscribing, rating, reviewing the podcast wherever it is you're consuming it. It does go a long way and it does help the show continue to grow. Before we jump into today's episode, just want to take a second here to thank each and every one of you for tuning in. Your support truly means a lot to me. And quite frankly, I do appreciate you guys spending a little bit of your day here with me, listening to me talk some sports. Remember, you can also find this podcast over on my YouTube channel at Mind of Marsal. This episode and every episode, as well as my shorts and all of the good stuff I've been posting lately there. So make sure you're subscribing to my YouTube channel there at Mind of Marsal. Well, I'm back from vacation and I'm ready to hit the ground running. Today, we're going to be jumping into the second installment of the training camp report series, which I started right before we went on vacation. We've got another week of practices in the books. Preseason football has already begun. We got preseason games this week. We had the Hall of Fame game last week. We're going to continue to look at some of the biggest storylines. We're going to continue to take a deep dive into some position battles, injuries, depth chart movements, and, any players generating buzz throughout camp. Something we talked about a little bit last week on episode number 151. We're going to continue to, we'll follow up on some of the things we watched last week, and we're going to see some of the new things that have popped up here. We're always, like I said last week, we're always going to be looking at what is worth keeping an eye on, what really matters, kind of, push away the noise, and look at what really matters and what we should be paying attention here. So, I look, it's there's a lot to kind of digest here, and this is the first of the second, the first of two training camp report podcast that I'll be doing this week. So the other one will be going live on Friday. So this week I'm going to be doing one Monday and Friday as well. So I'll be to catch up everyone on all of the news we've seen here for the last week or so. So just like I mentioned, and like I did last week, we're going to go position by position here. We'll start off at the quarterback position, and we're going to look at the Browns. Right? We know that Shedeur Sanders was kind of beating out Deshaun Watson, has looked better than Deshaun Watson. Kind of the roles have reversed now, right? Deshaun Watson, it looks like he's gaining some ground in this quarterback competition. It looks like he is now the one with the leg up and the one that, has been looking better here. Look, I'm expecting these two quarterbacks to continue to be a back and forth battle between now and the start of the season. And like I mentioned, last week, this is not a quarterback situation I'm all that interested in. So I, it doesn't really do much for me. It doesn't move the needle. And I don't think it's really going to move the needle of the supporting cast, right? Because this is, I think, a situation that's going to be very volatile throughout. It remains to be seen, obviously who's going to start in the preseason game. I think this is where you have to monitor who's getting, the reps with the first teams, who's getting the reps with the second team. There's something you got to continue to keep an eye on if you're looking to invest in here. But I view this as a battle where it's truly a 50-50. I wouldn't be shocked in what direction the team goes. But I do see where this is not going to be clear until we get far closer into, right before the start of the season, really. So, do I want to be invested here? Probably not, right? And do you want to be invested in the supporting cast? I'm hesitant to invest in the supporting cast. There's a lot of, the offensive line is not good. The quarterback situation is volatile. So, and let's not, forget that if Sanders is the week one starter, that doesn't mean he's going to be the every week starter the entire season. Like if he struggles, the team could shift gears and go to Watson and vice versa, right? If Watson is the week one starter, this is a situation where we can see Sanders starting at some point if Watson struggles. So whether one wins, whoever wins this battle is not, secure at the starting job for the entirety of the season. So let's keep that in mind here as well. We look at, the Anthony Richardson, like he's been working with the third team. Okay, there's concerns about his eyesight. Like this is just not ideal. Riley Leonard is expected, to be the week one starter. I think here, it's something to keep an eye on, really. But again, something that's not moving the needle. I think the big question is, when Daniel Jones is going to be available. All signs are that he's, physically healthy, but I don't know when he's going to be on that field this season. So until then, I do think this offense in Indianapolis could struggle there. We see the Vikings, Kyler Murray, he continues to be the favorite there. As far as the quarterback competition is concerned, he's looking good. He's received, tons of positive reports. And we're seeing JJ McCarthy practice a lot with the second team. This is a competition that I don't think is that close. I think Kyler Murray is the favorite here. And I think I said this last week, and I say this again. I think this is his job to lose at the moment, right? So, and until we read otherwise, I don't see this changing. And this is coming from someone who really wasn't a Kyler Murray fan. Like, and I still think that there's, that his lack of size is an issue. But he's looked better than McCarthy, and McCarthy continues to struggle here. So, really interested to see how this shapes out. But right now, I'm looking at Murray, and I'm saying this is the week one starter here for the Vikings. And Patrick Mahomes, he continues to get good reports here. It looks like he's on track, and everything is pointing towards him being on track for week one. As far as preseason is concerned, I wouldn't be expecting him to play a ton in the preseason. There hasn't been any official word on how much time, if any, he's going to play in the preseason. But to me, look, man, let him just get back. Let him, we don't need to rush him into the preseason. Let's see how this works out. But I do think that, um, if this steady drumbeat of positive reports continues here for Mahomes, I wouldn't be surprised if he's under center in week one, because as things stand right now, it's looking like he's, certainly on track to be on the field there. He's been a full participant of practice, so that's a very, very good note there. Look, Jackson Dart, there's been some mixed reports, right? It looks like he's been good at times, he's been off at times. Look, it's just I'm not concerned. I look at Jackson Dart, QB1 for fantasy this year. The rushing ability, he's getting Malik Neighbors back. They added Isaiah Likely, got Cam Scatterby back. He's going to be just fine. And like all young quarterbacks, there's going to be growing pains, right? There's going to be volatility. There's going to be good and there's going to be bad times. So, like, I'm not concerned. I'm expected to see volatility here and some mixed reports as far as, some days he's looking great, some days he's looking sharp, other days he's not. And that's just, the way that the cookie crumbles sometimes with these younger quarterbacks. And that's really with all quarterbacks. So just, that's kind of what I'm gathering here from Jackson Dart, where you're seeing mixed reports. CJ Stroud, this is one that I am going to continue to keep a close eye on. It's been steady, steady, steady reports as far as how good he's looked, how good he's been in practice. I know it's practice, I know it's doing camp, and I know all that stuff, but I like looking at these reports because this is a young man who showed what he's capable of doing as a rookie, has struggled since. They're continuing to improve the offensive line. They added pieces last year with Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel. You have obviously Nico Collins, one of the better receivers in football. They added David Montgomery this offseason. So I'm liking here this, all of the things they've done in the now these steady reports. I'm going to be continuing to monitor because he's been one of my favorite QB2 to target in super flex leagues, not because I think he's going to turn it around and be a top 10 quarterback or anything like that, but because I do think that, he's a very good quarterback. And I think that he's going to be closer to what we saw in his rookie season than what we've seen, what we've seen now, the last couple of seasons. So, I'm going to be continuing to monitor CJ Stroud notes here, but if he continues to be steady, reports of how good he's looked, and if he has some pretty good showings in preseason, he's someone that could jump slightly up my board. Not going to change from the QB2 territory, but might move slightly up my board there. When you look at Bo Nix, he believes that the movement is back. That's the reports. And Champagne reports or Champagne said, reportedly said that it looks like the movement is back. So I'm still very concerned when seen images and stuff like that. We have to see him moving. We have to see, obviously him in game speed, see how we could dictate that. So I'm going to be looking at preseason games and kind of seeing that. Practice is one thing, but playing in game speed is a totally different thing. So hopefully we see some preseason games and snaps out of Bo Nix to see what he truly looks like there running the football. Other than that, really not much else. Teddy Bridgewater stepped away from Detroit, and now Joshua Dobbs is the backup. It's just nothing, n- nothing major there, right? Other than that, that's it really for the quarterback position. Just again, we're going to take out the fluff, so that's why I'm not going to talk about some of the other things that we've heard or maybe read throughout the training camp and some of the beat reporters there. So now we're going to jump to the running back position and Chris Rodriguez versus Michelle Tootin. And we've talked about this, ladies and gentlemen. Like Tootin was receiving that boom, steady, positive drum beat, still steady, still positive, but they're utilizing Chris Rodriguez and inside in the 10-yard line. They're utilizing him in short yardage situations. What we're seeing right now in scrimmage uses, what we're seeing is Rodriguez is being utilized in the 10-yard line, short yardage stuff, and then two in, between the 20. So we could see that. I have Rodriguez as someone who's going to be a touchdown vulture this year, right? Like I do expect him to be a touchdown vulture. This is why I like him at his ADP because yes, he's not going. I don't expect him to lead this backfield in opportunities or in touches, but I do expect him to lead this backfield in opportunities in the red zone. I do expect him to lead this backfield in touches inside the 20, 15, 10, and 5-yard line. And I do think there's touchdown upside to be had there. And I also think he's going to have a role where he's seeing, decent amount of opportunities on a week-to-week basis. So um, this is what we're expecting here, right? If you're drafting to it, you want to definitely handcuff him Rodriguez. But I do see both of these running backs with standalone value this season. And it's definitely something to monitor, right? I definitely want to keep a close eye on this backfield and this battle because it's one that can be very productive for fantasy managers, right? It's one that this is an offense that was very productive last season. Okay. And to me, I mean, if you look at the ADP here and you're looking at two in, so two in right now is coming off the board in the RB 25 range, usually between 48 and 54. That's kind of the range is going as far as ADP is concerned. And you're getting a massive discount on Chris Rodriguez, RB 45 there. So definitely something to keep an eye on here. I've been investing a little bit more in Rodriguez than I have been in Tutin, but I do like both of these running backs here. And I want to be invested in this Jaguars offense. We know that this is a very good, offense. We know that, Liam Cohen has done great jobs with this offense, and I expect both of these running backs to have a role here. So definitely something to keep eye on here. Commanders. So we know that this is like kind of they added Rashad White, so kind of like a crowded backfield, but our boy Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, he's looking like the guy that's being utilized as the receiver. We thought White could have that role, but JCM, he's looking good in that receiver role right now, based on what we've seen in practices. It looks like he's also, reportedly, improved in the pass protection. So we got to continue to see how this, this report goes for Krosky Merritt. If that continues to be positive, we can see him take on that lead role for this backfield. I still think it's up for grabs. I still think we can see a committee here, but the fact that he's improved on some of the things that he needed to improve on, which is the pass catching, the protection, um, could carve out a larger role than anticipated. Okay, so it's something to keep a close eye on here with this team here and with this backfield. So definitely, without question, something to keep a close eye on here. You look at Omar and Hampton. Uh, good things away for good things been being reported about him here. It looks like he's growing. He continues to develop. Obviously, not a shock, not a surprise. So. I just had to say something about Omari Hampton because he's one of my favorite running backs this year, man. And I'm always looking for reports on him, always looking for what I find, and it's nothing. Nothing like when you have one of your favorite targets this season, you just, and getting good positive reviews, man. So I hope that we can continue to get this reviews, but I do hope that it's not going to impact his ADP significantly because he's already one of my favorite targets. I think he's going at a good price. I hate to take him even earlier than I'm already taking him ahead of his ADP. So right now, when you look at the Steelers situation, Jalen Warren RB1 in the first preseason depth chart, Rico Dotto RB2. Expected. I expect that to be the case. I think, we could see a committee here. I'm slightly um, more bullish on Jalen Warren. I think he's going to be very involved in the pass catching. This year we know that Gainwell is no longer there in Pittsburgh, who assumed a huge role in the passing game last year. So I'm very interested in Jalen Warren. He's one of those running backs I kind of been targeting him as ADP. But again, this was expected. This is not major news. Um, but yeah, the Gainwell, Kenny Gainwell, Tampa Bay. Now he's apparently looking really good as a pass catcher for Tampa Bay right now. It looks like he's doing very good things there in practice. The team is, very excited about what they've seen so far. And to be honest with you, man, like I'm out on, pretty much out on Bucky Irving, and I'm in on Gainwell. Like I'm in on Kenneth Gainwell. I think he's going to be the primary pass catcher here in Tampa Bay, and I just really like what he brings to the table. We saw it last year, what he's truly capable of, and I think he's going to carve out a very nice role here. There. So I like this. This one is important too for me. We talk about handcuffs, right? We talk about players that we're investing in, and we want to secure Emmett Johnson, someone I'm very bullish on, very, very intrigued by this year. And behind Kenneth Walker, he's the reports have been very, very good. Like there's been steady buzz, and I think that he's going to be the clear cut handcuff here in Kansas City. We know that Kenneth Walker has battled injuries throughout his career, and this is a backfield I'm sorry, this is an offense, and yeah, in a backfield that wants to emphasize the run, right? So I expect, if he does indeed become and earn that handcuff job there, which I do expect him to be the RB2 here, he's going to hold a lot of value. I'm investing him in drafts right now in best ball, season long, dynasty, and these reports continue to be positive, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm gonna be very, very excited. So I'm gonna see how how he looks in preseason. Hopefully he doesn't break one, right? For a long touchdown and he's on ESPN and on all the news channels, and then now all of a sudden his ADP climbs and everyone's devastated because of one run. But monitor Emmett Johnson, ladies and gentlemen, monitor that. I do like what I've read so far from Emmett Johnson, and I do think he's going to be that clear-cut handcuff to Kenneth Walker, which I think is going to be one of the most valuable handcuffs in football there. Jadarian Price, he's another one that's been getting, some good reports that he is dealing with a leg, a lower body injury, soreness. It's not an injury, it's like soreness, but nothing to be concerned about. And then we know Zach Charbonnet. He is working his way back from the injury, so Price could be in for a significant role early on in the season. Other than that, we have nothing. I mean, we know that Jonathan Taylor signed a 2-year, $44 million extension, and pretty much it. Like that's not, they got some Josh Jacobs. He's dealing with a groin injury, something to keep a close eye on. We know Jameer Gibbs signed a long-term extension. Cam Scadaboo, he left practice with a leg issue. Apparently, it's not a serious issue or a serious concern, but definitely something to monitor. You look at Monangai, he is back in practice. He was missing some time with soft tissue injury. And then, with Kendra Miller dealing with a back injury after last year's ACL tear. Devin Neal, getting some extra reps, but we know that this backfield is one that's pretty crowded already. So just some things to monitor there. Now we're going to jump to the wide receiver position here, and we'll start off with the Malik Neighbors. trending toward being ready for week one. Has continued to participate in practice, and they're continuing to increase what he's doing on the practice field. He hasn't done 7-on-7. He hasn't done 11-on-11. He hasn't done any of that, but they're ramping up what he's doing on the field. I like that. Someone that look, man, I'm going to be investing in Malik Neighbors. Like I think we should be taking the risk. You are taking risks, but man, the upside is undeniable, right? So yes, he's returning from the injury. You don't know if he's going to be 100% to start the season. Like you don't know if he's going to be at full go early on in the season. It might take him a month. It might take him 6 weeks. It might take him 8 weeks. I don't know, man, but I am willing to take that risk when it comes to someone like Neighbors because I know what that ceiling is like, and we have a player that has the potential to be the top three wide receiver in fantasy football this season, and because of that, I'm willing to invest. Jacoby Lane, a name to keep an eye on. He's been getting steady reports about how good he's looked. It's he's been the star, quote unquote, is of Ravens camp. He's making some, big catches, and just flashing his upside, and he's, obviously still behind in the depth chart, right? So let's just take these reports with a grain of salt. But he's someone that I already had on my board as a player to watch and a player to monitor, and I really do like the idea of you know, keeping these little notes at hand because now he's someone that maybe I wasn't investing in the very late rounds of some drafts, and I might start investing in some of the later rounds of drafts. So already was investing in Lane in Dynasty. And I've taken some shots on him in at best ball, but redraft guy now possible as a deep stash if these reports continue here. Jaden Higgins, everyone knows I'm a fan. The reports have been just nothing but positive. So it looks like he's doing better with his route running. He's doing better, with just everything on the field right now. And I think he's someone that is going to carve out a pretty decent role alongside Nico Collins, and he is I mean, a big, 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 big time wide receiver in my opinion here. Man, I like Jaden Higgins a lot, and I think you're getting him at a very good price. So definitely keep an eye on these reports because Jaden Higgins, someone who I think is going to surprise and outperform his ADP. Jalen Wall already dealing with muscle tightness and muscle strains. Man, keep an eye on it. Obviously he's expected to be the number two wide receiver here in Denver, working alongside Cortland Sutton. Again, nothing serious, but you don't like to see these, issues early on. Another receiver who I like quite a bit, Devonta Smith. He's dealing with hamstring injuries. I hate these soft tissue injuries here because they can linger, right? We know Smith has dealt with these before. But look, for now, it's just not overly concerning. Something to keep an eye on, something to monitor. Definitely not ideal. I'm still investing in Devonta Smith. I still have him pretty highly ranked on my board compared to most boards. We know that he's going to be that wide receiver one now that AJ Brown is no longer with the team. So for me, Devonta Smith, uh, good, good. I mean, so long as he's healthy, man, in a good position to have a career best year. So I'm investing him. Just keep an eye on the hamstring injury. As of right now, it doesn't seem or appear to be significant. Makai Lemon, another player I'm very bullish on this year. The rookie dealing with a hamstring injury. Does it seem to be concerning? But again, young player missing practice is not ideal there. The one that's been playing, the one that has been taking advantage of the situation is Dontavian Wicks. He's been just flashing with both Lemon and Smith sideline. So don't think that that's going to pick up too much steam. But if either of these two players miss a significant amount of time, that definitely can change. We have Zay Flowers. We know that he signed a massive extension. He's dealing with a quad contusion, nothing serious there. Rashad Bateman, someone who has really never panned out, right? Like, but at least not how some expected him. It looks like they're going to be moving him around the offense. I'm waiting to see what happens there. But again, I don't expect consistent production of someone like Bateman here. It looks like when you look at the Buccaneers room, we have Godwin and Ibuka. Just they're kind of their time of practice is being managed, right? Because of injuries and soreness and whatnot. Godwin is someone that we know coming off an injury-plagued season, right? Another year older. Just monitor his status. I'm a little bit more concerned about him and him being, dealing with anything or soreness, whether it's soreness, injuries, tightness, whatever, however they want to word it. Something to keep a very close eye on here because he's someone that is coming off an injury plagued season, just another year older. The one player who has been receiving a ton of positive reports is Ted Hurst. Keep an eye on that name. See if anything comes out of that. We know Jalen McMillan is dealing with the knee injury, and there's no firm timetable on that return. And Tez Johnson is dealing with a groin injury. So because of these, injuries, someone like Ted Hurst has been getting some extra opportunities there. Jaden Reed dealing with a ankle injury that doesn't appear to be serious. Obviously still expected to carve out a decent role there for the Packers. Matthew Golden also missing some time there with a toe injury doesn't appear to be significant. That coming off a disappointing rookie campaign, obviously expecting to bounce back here. Other injuries to note here: Josh Downs, groin injury, not considered serious. Luther Burton, groin injury, he's expected to miss some time, right? So this is an injury you have to keep a very close eye on. I personally was not investing much in Luther Burton, but I'm expecting his ADP to start dropping here with this news. And if he does get to a point where he's very, very cheap, we can start reconsidering whether we want to invest or not, depending on the severity of this injury. But as of right now, it doesn't sound extremely serious, but he is definitely expected to miss time. Like it doesn't sound like apparently the initial thoughts were a very serious injury that, but apparently it's just one that's going to keep him out for some time. So these are tricky though. Groin injuries, remember, soft tissue injuries. These are not easy. All right. So one to keep a close eye on. Michael Pittman dealing with a leg injury. It doesn't appear to be significant at this time. But again, just something to monitor there. Zachariah Branch. All right, there we go. We're talking about they're talking about him. He's getting positive reports there. Trey Harris getting a ton of positive reports. He's someone I like a lot, right? Like I'm digging this Chargers offense. I've talked about this quite often. I'm digging this Chargers offense, and he is someone I like. He's someone I invested in the Kings Classic draft. I drafted him in that draft, and dude, they're expecting him to carve out a decent role here, man. And I am super excited for this young man. Apparently, he's connecting, and the chemistry continues to grow with him and Justin Herbert. So keep an eye on that name. And someone to take some flyers on. I really do like him this season. I think that there's a potential for a decent role there. We know Quentin Johnston, very boomer bust type receiver. Lad McConkey, durability could be an issue. Like Harris could be in for a pretty significant role here for the Chargers in 2026. A name I'm keeping a very close eye on here this year. Isaac Tesla, a name that a lot of people are familiar with. It looks like he's having trouble at camp. Reports have been negative, negative, negative. So just for those who have him or are thinking about him as a late round flyer, I would hold off on that right now, as the reports are not great here when it comes to Tesla in camp. Outside of that, not much else at the wide receiver position. We're going to transition here to tight ends. Tucker Kraft, look, he's missing some time after he's returned from the PUP. We know that positive. He has some rest days in camp. This is to be expected, right? So don't get alarmed when you see he did not practice. Don't get alarmed with he had the day off. Don't get alarmed with not on the practice. Just don't be alarmed with these reports, okay? He is off the PUP list. That's a good news. And the fact that he's on and off the practice field, that's fine. You're expected to, I'm pretty sure they're going to ease him into the work. I'm pretty sure they're taking it slow with someone like Tucker Craft. So long as he's able to stay off the PUP list, I think it's a good sign for his availability here in week one. Kenyon Sadiq continues to, recover for the hernia surgery that he had. He's expected to miss a couple more weeks. So sucks, right? Rookie tight end, you're missing quality time here on the practice field, quality time to develop the timing with the quarterback, to sharpen up the route running, sharpening up the pass blocking, the run block, like sharpening all this, all these reps, right? Like, all these reps matter for these young tight ends, these young players, really. So obviously this is not ideal there. And then when you look at the Eagles, Dallas Goedert continues to be the top tight end at the depth chart. I know Eli Stowers, they're the long-term outlook remains positive, but still think Dallas Goedert is the tight end to own here in 2026 for Philadelphia. Zach Ertz got cleared for all football activities following his ACL rehab. He remains a free agent. Just a veteran name to watch. I don't know how much of an impact he's going to have anywhere he goes, if any at all, if he is signed. But again, just a notes to be just obviously something that I wanted to note there, as he's been cleared for football activities. And that's it really for tight ends, man. Look, Tyler Conklin passes physical and is expected to be back at practice soon. He's behind Sam Laporte in the depth chart. Tyler Conklin is not going to have a role so long as Sam Laporte is healthy, right? So, but again, just some additional news there. Some quick hits in other positions. So, this is a big one. The Commanders lost Laremy Tunsil to a torn tricep. It looks like he's likely out for the remainder of the year. It hasn't been confirmed, but yeah, not a good news. Um, Obviously, one of the better linemen in football. One of the better tackles in football. I mean, just it's whoever. I mean, what happens here with Washington, this offense, it just takes a big blow. It doesn't matter who steps in, right? Like there's not a 1v1 replacement for Larry Tunsil. So that's obviously not ideal for this offensive line, not ideal for the run game. We know that. And other little things, it looks like Lane Johnson is saying that this is probably the last season. Look, doesn't matter. He's gonna play in 2026. He's one of the best tackles in football, so not all that interesting. But I just thought, since we were talking tackles, mention that as well. All right, so let's wrap it up here with some stock up players here. Some situations that that I'm gonna be monitoring here in the next couple of weeks, and just some final thoughts as well. So stock up, Jacoby Lane, a name to watch. Not someone that you want to automatically um, start drafting, but someone to definitely keep an eye on. In deeper leagues, I like the idea of taking late round flyers on him, as a stash, as a bench stash, and he's someone that you're not gonna want to play week one, week two, week three, week four. He might be someone you're stashing for 6, 7 weeks, right? He might not carve out the rope, but just a name to watch here. Jaden Higgins, he is someone I am drafting. He's another one with the stock up based on some of the reports I've read for me. So keep an eye on his name, keep an eye on those reports. He's someone that I think you should be taking some shots at, especially in best ball, where you don't have to necessarily, put him in there every week, right? You're gonna get those peak weeks when he has them. I don't think he's going to be a floor play, but I do think he's going to have some pretty big moments here in 2026. Amari Hampton, I not necessarily stock up, but I just love the fact that we're getting some positive reports there out of him. And then Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, like, just keep monitoring how he's doing, right? If he continues, I always say this, and I understand that it doesn't have anything to do with fantasy production, right? But running backs who can pass block, running backs, right, who can protect, they're going to get opportunities that some other running backs that cannot get, right? And just by being on the field, like that, to me, that's important, right? So if Krosky Merritt can, you know, improve on some of the deficiencies that we saw from last year, that's going to earn him more playing time. I'm not Rashad White is not a threat in my opinion. Like he's not a super talented, running back. So it's not like he's a major threat, but you just need to be on the field. I think Krosky Merritt, still think it's going to be a committee here, but I think Krosky Merritt's a name to watch as this stock is kind of going up here. Um, Situation to monitor. Like I'm going to monitor the Colts situation there, the quarterback situation. The Jaguars running back role, I think that's very, very important, right? Like I think we need to keep a close eye on that Rodriguez Tootin situation. I'm going to be keeping a close eye on some of these injuries, man. Eagles, Devontae Smith, Makai Lemon, the Buccaneers, the Ibuka, Godwin, Millen. Like there's a lot of injuries here in Buccaneers and in Philadelphia. I'm going to be obviously keeping a close eye on Malik Neighbors. He's another one we want to keep a close eye on. So these are some situations I'll be monitoring closely. I also want to monitor that Gainwell situation quite a bit, man. I want to see what happens there with Gainwell. And then Trey Harris. Monitor Trey Harris. Monitor what he's doing in camp. Keep an eye on his games in the preseason. See what he does. See how he's utilized. See when he's on and off the field. That's so important, right? Is he if did they take him off? Would they take Herbert? Like, see all these things, right? Like, I think these are all very important factors that we want to be keeping an eye on. So that's the things I'm going to be keeping a close eye on in the next couple of days here as we get into Friday for the next show. Another some other things I want to take note. Look, don't overreact, right? With unofficial preseason depth charts. Don't overreact with injury headlines, with one bad or good practice. And coach speak, right? Let's be mindful of coach speak when it comes to usage and potential usage. Um, again, some of these players we talked about today, they're being utilized a certain way. Some things we're keeping a close eye on, like I said. Other things, it's like, okay, it doesn't do anything for me, right? So, like, those are the kind of things we're going to be continuing looking at here at fantasyguru.com when we do this training camp report podcast. And we're going to continue to, kind of focus on what matters most and how this is going to impact your fantasy approach. The way we approach fantasy drafts, the way we approach our roster construction, who we're handcuffing, who we're not. That's all important here. And look, I know training camp information is valuable, but we have to remember context matters, right? Um, I like to look at patterns more than individual reports. So you're going to see me saying the constant, steady beat drum. You're going to hear me saying the constant, consistent positive reports, the consistent negative reports. Some weeks is going to be one report that I talk about, right? It's the first time we report, so we're kind of just taking an eye. We're keeping an eye. Once we start getting a steady report of it, now we are now going to react, right? So like Lane, we're not reacting yet. We're keeping an eye now. Jaden Higgins, we've already been on the Jaden Higgins bandwagon, right? We've been on it. We've been on the train. Now it's full steam ahead. Now it's like, okay, we're getting good positive reviews. You know what? We're getting another positive. Now it's okay. We this is good. This is what we want. So that's very important. How often are they getting first team reps? Who has a defined role? The continuous positive reports. These are what we need to be paying attention, right? These are the things we need to be paying attention. I think who's not doing well, who's losing reps, who's off the field because of injuries. Those are consistent negative reports, right? Like that's important. Some of these guys, Devontae Smith, that's not going to matter. He has a defined role. But when it comes to some of the younger players, Lemon, I mean, like what I'm saying? Like some of these players, like it's gonna impact them a little bit more, right? So we have to be mindful of that, right? We have to be mindful of that. So you have to keep those things in mind here when it comes to these young players. And then maybe what another thing we want to keep now with preseason games. Let's keep this in mind. Okay, so with preseason games, who's playing with the starters? To me, this is important. Who's coming off the field on third down? Who's getting the goal line work? Which wide receivers are in there in two wide receiver sets? Which wide receivers are operating out of slots? And who's being held out because their roles are secured? right? These are things we got to continue to monitor here in the upcoming weeks as we prepare for our fantasy draft. So, again, we're going to continue to gather information and we're going to continue to see what's going on in these practices. We're going to continue to see these videos. And I'm going to continue to report on this each and every week. Again, we're going to be doing 2 episodes of the training camp report this week. This is all of the news we've been tracking the last couple of days here at fantasyguru.com. This is how it's going to impact your fantasy football drafts. And again, remember, if you're enjoying this podcast, if you're enjoying the episodes, if you're enjoying the show, please make sure you're following, rating, reviewing the podcast here. You could check out the draft guide if you haven't already done so. We have that going on, continuous updates there to the NFL draft guide. The rankings are constantly being updated. The auction draft book, I just updated that a couple of days ago as well. I'll be continuing to update it with news and notes here as we go. And so just keep an eye on that for that there at fantasyguru.com. Remember, again, you can find this show at my YouTube channel at Mind of Marsal. Once again, thank you guys all for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed this week's journey through the Mind of Marsal. Until next week, folks.